In this video I'll be swapping components to different frames. I'll run through the process of how I went about building the bike. In the beginning, while I was installing the headset, I ran into issues with tolerances in the frame. I didn't record a lot of that because it was a lot of trial and error, you know. Takes them off, see if you can press the cups, takes them off, see if you can press. I did make a little bit of a bearing press, or a headset press. It sort of worked. It helped a little bit for the lower cup, which was actually easier to install, but it did flex out this lower washer, so this is all deformed. It was a little bit thinner gauge than the top one, more material on the top. The headset fitment was just tough. The bottom bracket was already installed. I did that previously, but I put the cranks on. The chain ring swapped to the smaller ring for 40 or 36 only. I do like the way it looks. It's just the right gearing. Performs well. Right now the chain's a little rusty. I've been riding. I haven't lubed the chain up, but it has been raining in the city and there's been salt on the ground a little bit, so it's time to grease the chain, but for right now, note that. I then put on the rear derailleur and the chain itself. I did install the rear derailleur limiter in the wrong position, so I had to take it off and remount. Not a big deal. After that, I put the chain on and fit the Paul component chain keeper. It's a nice piece. I did order the proper size. They sent me the wrong size. I didn't feel like waiting for the right size to come in and doing the whole return process, so I just ended up using a spacer. It's not really the right fit. I'll address that in time. It does work. Works nicely. Looks good. Machined well. I had to shrink the cockpit a little bit because of the old GT settings. Really, that was all just in the seat, sliding it forward a touch. I do like the further lower flat bar feel of this bike. That's my ride style, I suppose. I put the fenders on. They actually fit better than on the GT. However, on the rear, at the lower end of the chainstay, I need to add a spacer to get the fender a little bit more flush over the wheel. I took the rear flap off of the fender and put it in the inner part of the rear fender. I'll be working on making a set of mud flaps to pin up on the fenders for a little extra coverage. I'm thinking maybe I'll use a tube, split it, use that sort of thing, have that movability, the flexibility of the rubber. Maybe I'll use some sort of tarp. I'm not 100% sure yet, but I'll work on that and I'll make a video on it as well. I also put on race face bars. These are flat bars. They have like an 8-degree sweep in them. They're a little flat, they feel a little old school, but they fit this bike well. Maybe I'll get something with a little more sweep. I only ride about an hour. I ride about 2 hours a day, an hour period, so it's hard to really gauge on how it will be for the long haul. But I could see myself swapping them out to something a little bit more ergonomic. The bike right now actually handles really well. As far as geometry, I'm really happy with the geometry. The longer wheelbase, I feel like it makes a big difference. You know, you go from one wheel set into a different frame, very similar components, very similar everything, even gear ratios. You really get a feel of what the geometry is like, the differences in the geometry. This frame is just a lot more forgiving. It's not nearly as heavy. It's just a nicer riding frame. I'm not sure if that's just because it's double butted or it's a little bit longer. That pretty much concludes the frame swap. Had a lot of fun building it, minus the headset issue, but it was very worth it in the end. Very happy with the outcome. I'll figure out the next video soon. It'll be something cool.